glorified. I mean, he would go in for Obama and shit. It was crazy. But for some reason couldn't take firing a bass player. I want to tell everybody to just fucking be nicer to each other. Holy shit, guys. Can we calm down a little bit? Like, he's one of those, like, tight, fat guys. He held it together well or something. I don't know. He had a beard. He looked like he could just beat your ass. Like, it was just synthetic heroin instead of actual heroin. I don't know why. Maybe that's the dad in me coming out, but all you motherfuckers need to calm down and have a good time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Tragic Week Underground. We now have Bennett Mosier, one of the best guitarists I've ever seen, one of the best guitarists I've ever heard.
Well, thank you, Loren.
I really like this guy.
Very flattering.
Yeah, he's a gentleman. He's a great worker. He's a great mind to have. Matt, what's the first question?
It was going to be, what's your name?
What's your name, Bennett?
Bennett Ryan Mosier.
When were you born?
January 9th, 1982, and I want to say it is also the same birthday as Jimmy Page and Dave Matthews, who both had weird effects on my guitar playing before I even knew that. So
Jimmy Page
really
was born way before 1982.
Had to come out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you want to get down to it. Yep.
Yeah.
Capricorns, isn't that what they call us?
I don't know.
And before that, you got Sagittarius and...
I just want to say Jimmy Page was not born in 1982.
It's his birthday.
Well, I'm just saying.
You're saying the sperm
this
on that
guy's
cycle.
a little slow.
He's a little slow. The sperm came out.
All right, so Bennett, what do you do?
Primarily, I'm a dad.
Okay.
That takes up, a lot of my time, and in my free time, I play guitar and work at Guitar Center. But, man, I'm a guitarist, I guess. I'm always thinking about a guitar or playing guitar or something like that. That's all that ever goes through my mind.
Okay. How long have you been playing?
28 years.
28 years?
Yeah,
That's a long time.
It is.
So, how did it come about? How did you start?
So, I was in youth group in church. I grew up in the church. My dad always worked there, and when I was like in 7th grade, there was this dude who was older than me going to the youth group who brought a guitar one day, and I just like immediately idolized to this guy. Like, his name was Ab Colby. I remember it. And I became friends with him later, but he was playing like Plush, or this was in like the 90s anyway, but some or maybe that 9 Inch Nails too. I don't remember what it's called, but like The Becoming or something like that. But I was real shy and quiet. I didn't talk to anybody, and I was just like, what the fuck is he doing right now? Like, it blew my mind. And from that point on, like, I asked for a guitar that Christmas, and they got me a Washburn Lion electric, and I started playing, and I put it down for like a year, like my 9th grade year. I liked this girl and neglected the guitar, and then picked it back up after that because bitches are crazy. Mm-hmm. So, no offense, ladies. So are the dudes. It's all right.
Speak for yourself.
It's actually going to be my next question: is at what point did you put down the guitar? Because that's always part of everybody's.
Yeah.
There's at one point when
my 9th grade year. Yeah, and it really had more to do with than just a girl. Like, I was getting frustrated about bar chords, and so I was like, nah, whatever. I put it down because I couldn't get my finger wasn't agreeing fast enough. So, but what got me to pick it back up actually was I was playing trumpet in concert band in 9th grade, and I'd mentioned something about the guitar while I was in that class playing, and my band director was like, hey, you can play guitar for an hour in school if you try out for the jazz band for next year. And I was like, really? That sounds like a good deal. And so I picked it back up and started messing around. I got the audition music and tried out and made it and started playing. And that's kind of when I really started playing, was in like 10th grade, and started playing in a jazz band with Mr. Klarfeld. He was really cool. And just put my ass to the fire. It was like that movie, Whiplash or whatever it is, that movie where he's he was a real intense jazz director. He wasn't like that. I mean, he didn't beat us or anything, but those dudes are intense, man. They were right on with that depiction. I mean, they are serious about their charts and stuff. But that was kind of my introduction to the electric guitar, was in jazz band in 10th grade, 4th hour.
So what was, when you picked it back up, what was like your motivation to keep going with it other than being in jazz band? Was there any other kind of motivation, or was it just to be in jazz band?
I really liked Metallica.
Okay.
and I wanted to learn songs off of And Justice for All, who Ab showed me. That guy, he gave me a copy of this is when you could burn CDs and shit. A copy of And Justice for All and Master of Puppets, and showed me some songs off them, like Battery, which I was like, I'll learn the intro. I was like, and then it got to that part and I was like, just at a loss. But I wanted to learn those songs, like stuff, anything off of Justice. What was that? The title track.
Yeah.
I remember when I learned that, because I picked it out by, it was the first thing I ever learned by ear, was the beginning of that song. I didn't learn anything much past their intros then, because it just got way too hard for my skill level. But I remember sitting in my room figuring that shit out and finishing it and just going, yes, and just like playing that for like an hour. But it was fun, man. Just like learning different songs, and once I got the fever, it never went away, dude. I just liked playing. I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. So let's go back a bit, because we kind of want to know about you as a person as well. So what was your upbringing like as a kid and growing up?
Church all
the time?
Yep, all the time, dude. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday, activities during the week, camps, retreats, everything. It was church, and I loved it at the time. I mean, I didn't stray, so to speak, from the church or anything until I was even out of high school. I mean, like 19, I had my first sip of beer, I didn't like it. And then later became an alcoholic, so it's kind of funny. It's like a slingshot. But yeah, it was just church, dude, like all the time. That's where my dad worked. My mom was...
You didn't hang out with anybody or anything outside of church?
No, not outside of church. I mean, there was like one kid that I had that was a friend that didn't go to church, and I ended up bringing him to church, so...
And did you ever play at church, like play in the service and stuff? With the band? I
didn't really start playing, like I said, until like 10th grade. So I did something at like my senior class deal. Like I think I played like a Dave Matthews song or something. And that was like really the first time I'd ever played in church, though, because I hadn't been good enough to do anything up until that point. But I did preach one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like the kids led the service or whatever, and I think I was in 7th grade, and I gave like a 5-minute sermon. Yeah, I don't remember what it was about.
But. So you started taking it more serious around 10th grade, you said, and
I mean, in a playing regard, yeah.
So then kind of walk us through, like, we've already talked about your motivation on why you kept with it at that point, or why you went back to it. So what was kind of your mindset? I know it might sound a bit redundant to ask that.
No.
But so what was it like getting back into it and then taking it seriously, and then when you first learned Injustice or Battery and you kind of got it, what was that like in your head? Like, how did you feel with that? And like, did that...
It was rewarding, man. It's the first thing in my life other than baseball. I played baseball and I was an incredible pitcher. Like, I mean,
yeah, me too. What's up?
Yeah, like I don't know if it's like a hand-eye coordination thing. I don't know, but I could drive really well. I could play baseball and basketball, especially baseball, really well. And then once the guitar happened, yeah, man, it was just like that. Like, it was so rewarding, and that's not something that at that age you feel a lot of in that way. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of opportunities when you're 15 to like initiate something yourself, see it through, finish it, and then play it back and go, yeah, I completely did that on my own. So I mean, it's a sense of liberty in there somewhere. I don't know, but when you're stuck in a classroom all the time.
And how did you learn? Did you learn like I did?
Just by ear. I would just listen to it. I mean, I honestly didn't think of any other way to do it until I got to jazz band, you know, and he was like, well, here's a chart, and I had to kind of fake my way learning music and stuff, and I would like listen to the keyboard and like pick it up, be like, and just look back at the chart like that. But I mean, I never really learned to read music. I could just do it really fast by ear. I don't know. And the keyboard was always doing what I was doing, so I would just listen to it and pick it out. Or there was always another guitarist too. Like one time that he made us, we had a big concert coming up. I totally just took a hard left. I'm sorry, but our director made me and this guy named John Beecham, who was total like goth. Like he was so quiet, and he would always wear this long trench coat, and he had super long hair, and he would sit in class like this and would just be like brooding, just like, what? You know, just total. But he was a nice guy. He was just very about being dark. And so one time my director was like, hey, you guys go in that practice room, start working on a song for the concert next month. You're gonna have to play one together. And I was like with charts, he said, no. He said, go in there and work on a song. And I was like, let's write a song with this guy. I mean, I hardly talked to. So he forced us to go into a room every day for like a month and sit in there with acoustic guitars and write something. And I ended up, through that, becoming friends with this guy. I'm still kind of in touch with him. I mean, we still email back and forth, but had we not done that, it still would have been like, get away from me. So I don't know if that was a strategic thing by Klarfeld to get us to like better know each other, or if he really wanted a guitar duo instrumental at the concert. I don't know, because he was kind of a clever guy, but it was a cool thing. We had to, and he was the one to put all this like heavy like acoustic shit in there. That was my first writing experience with anybody, and I was like, no. And we're not doing that. But I didn't say that in my mind. We ended up putting a lot of it in there.
Do you write lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, if I feel like the song calls for it.
Yeah.
Like, so occasionally.
So tell us about that. Are there any tactics you go for with lyrics, or you just invocate something?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't ever set out to write lyrics like I'm going to write this song because I feel heavy-hearted, or, you know, I mean, some people do that, and that's fine. I'll be playing guitar already, and what happens is, most of the time, I'll get like a melody in my head while I'm playing something, and then while I'm singing it with it, it eventually sounds like words, and then they get written, you know?
Yeah.
So it always kind of fits the song and the cadence very well, just because it's what I've been naturally singing. I'm not trying to force any words to fit anywhere. And so a lot of times I end up with gibberish. So, you know, like, it's just, you know, like fucking Black Buffalo. What I mean, that song doesn't make a lick of sense, but it sounds cool.
The lyrics sound good.
Have you hit 2,000 hours, do you think? Or 10,000 hours?
Oh, far. Dude, I hit that years ago. Dude,
at what point did you go like, okay, I've mastered, you had that moment of like, I've mastered the instrument?
I haven't ever felt that way, no.
I know it's not a ceiling, but was that that point where you're like, oh, I'm different than how I was? Like, this is not the same.
That's come recently, like, because it wasn't until my wife at the time decided to, you know, end our situation that I really had time to, I mean, because I was just always around the kids, you know, I mean, so it wasn't, I was actually kind of like, I was neglecting the guitar. I didn't really get to play it much, but so when that happened, I ended up back at the house with my mom and dad, who my dad later died, giving me more time. I mean, soon after I moved in, he passed, but so I spent probably 5 hours a day cumulatively in the garage playing guitar. Once it gets cold, I just move upstairs. 5 hours minimum. Like I'm not making this up either. So for the last like 2.5 years, I've been playing from 5 to 7 to 8 hours a day. And it was in that time where like it hit like a zen thing for me. Like I was miserable everywhere else, but I would play guitar and it was like, wow, just like this laser focus kind of thing. I don't know, but I mean, it wasn't like I was just going nuts, but it's like when you meditate or something, you know what I mean? Like I had no idea what I was playing, but it was just coming out. I mean, it still happens. Like I don't get it. Some sort of subconscious thing, using everything you've learned or something, and it just spits it out. But
so you're at a flow state where you can just go in and immediately flow?
Yes. No, totally. Yeah. Like because I have no idea what I'm playing. It just starts happening, and like I can sing the notes I'm playing, like. Like, I mean, and I didn't think about any of that. I don't know it weirds me out. Like, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't understand how that works. It's not conscious.
Yeah. So there's like, do you have any like closed-eyed moments?
I hardly ever open my eyes when I'm playing. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you see whenever you close your eyes and just play?
I've never thought about that. I don't know.
I can't say I know either. Like it's just one of those things where you don't even realize you're closing your eyes.
It's meditative.
Yeah.
Like you're just there, but not. I don't know.
It's not like you see anything, but you feel everything around you.
Yeah.
Kind of like, and you really feel it like exuding from your hands rather than up here. Like you just feel your hands moving, and like you can feel.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. Like in those moments, you know what I mean. And it's something that it's weird. I've started to learn life lessons from jamming guitar, which is very strange. Like, and I don't really know how to explain that to where it applies, but I can understand it. Like when, how do you say it? We'll come back to it. I forgot. Blame that one on the weed. It just kind of the train derailed. I was like, no, but come back. Anyway,
well, let's go back to kind of like how you got to where you are. So, like, what were some of your first experiences with bands and playing with other people? I know you said that like your first writing experience was with that guy.
But like initiating a band and
or even joining a band, just being part of the group.
Okay, so. I mentioned Steven Speaks when we were talking earlier. So the first time I was ever around it, that guy Ab, I was telling you about him, a guy named TJ McLeod, who's an incredible vocalist, he still is, and a guy named Ryan Ripperger started this band called Doubting Thomas, and they were all like, I was like a sophomore and they were seniors. And they would play at like coffee houses and stuff, and I mean it's laughable now when you look back and listen to it. I mean the stuff that they were doing, I mean it was acoustic 90s shit, you know, but you never know at the time. So anyway, so I was, and it was my first real experience with anything having to do with live music. I mean, it was 3 dudes, acoustic guitars and vocals, that was it. But I mean, I'd never been to a concert before other than Carmen and DC Talk at the Mabee Center, which was awesome at the time. I loved DC Talk, dude. But that was like their rap stage, like in '95. I digress. So TJ and Ab and Ryan all would play these shows, and I would go there, and I was like, dude, I want to play with. I was like lusting to like jam with them. I was like, look, I annoyed the shit out of them. I ended up forcing my way into friendships with all of them, like because I would just be around with the guitar, like trying to jam. I mean, not at shows, but like just to an annoying level. And so eventually they let me play with them, and then Ryan was the guy who recorded my solo. It all kind of went from there. But I mean, I just forced my way into their lives. I was like, I'm going to play guitar with them, and then it happened. So, that was really kind of
once you got yourself in there, what was that like? As far as like, you know, that this is your first band,
right? And
you know,
it gave me my first taste of writing disagreements and stuff, because like Ryan specifically knows what he wants when he writes a song. You know, he still does, and good for him. That's great. I didn't know anything about compromising or anything yet. I mean, you know, you're 17, 18. I mean, a lot of kids think they know everything when it comes to something they've been doing, you know what I mean? And I wasn't any different. And neither was Ryan. And so we would just get into these arguments about songwriting and stuff, but he would always win because it was his studio and stuff. So, but I mean, it never cost us a friendship or anything. I mean, we would just go outside, but that's where I started smoking, was over there. Like, I would fucking go outside, and he used to have these Blackstone cherry cigars, so I'd take one and go out there and cough my ass off, and then eventually started smoking cigarettes, and here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and so, what happened to that band? Did you leave or did?
Well, yeah. So eventually, while that was going on, I'd gone to high school with Sid, who was the singer from Upside, and we kind of stayed in touch. He went to OU, and I went to Abilene Christian whenever high school ended, and I was there for a semester. It was a Christian school. I didn't like it. Some of my family lived there. They would just hover over me, and that's where I fucking started drinking, was at ACU. And then I stayed there a semester, came back here, and I crossed paths with Sid somewhere. And when I came back here is when when I met back up with Rip and started recording a solo album. And because all that stuff happened like the end of my senior year with Doubting Thomas. So I'm recording this solo album, but I cross paths with Sid, and he wants to start a band. And so I do that while I'm still recording this acoustic album, but Sid wants to do heavy shit. And I'm like, all right. So I get an electric. I had only had an acoustic at the time. I had an electric before that, sold it to get an acoustic. That's where I was. Got another electric. Started writing acoustic songs on a fucking electric guitar, and he would sing them. And Sid was way easier to write with because he was just a singer. He didn't have a guitar to battle me with, you know. So I liked that a lot more than the stuff I was doing with Ryan, because Ryan was always, there was always resistance, you know. He had his ideas and I had mine. But I don't mean to put him in a bad light. Ryan's a great guy. He recorded that whole album for free. I mean, and he had a legit studio at the time.
Right.
But anyway, so I kept doing things with Sid, and I never really promoted my solo stuff at all. And we got a drummer and a bass player, and moved to Norman, and that's where Upside really started, was because Sid and our drummer Owen were both going to school at OU. So
this is the start of Upside.
Yeah, it was in Norman. It was in Norman. Yep.
Okay.
I moved there, and we all lived in my bass player. Well, the bass player started there. I don't figure, this to be relevant at all, but our first bass player just wasn't that great, and he went to OU too. So I moved there, and Sid, Owen, and I were living in a house. And what?
I was wondering.
Do I need to stop talking?
No, it's out of space.
Oh, okay.
I knew this would happen, so.
Sid, Owen, and I had a house, and Josh, the original bass player, lived somewhere else, and we eventually ended up kicking him out, and it was real awkward. Like, 'cause all the guys were like, yeah, we'll all do it, and they pussed out when we were all sitting there, and I had to do it, and he started crying and begging me and shit, and it was so fucking awkward. He was like, but I don't want to be a rocket scientist. I was like, oh, sorry, man, you're still in the band because you suck at bass. You should probably be a rocket scientist. And you know what's funny is he was actually the guy, you know that giant church over by work? Mm-hmm. That's his dad's church.
Asbury?
Tom Harrison.
Oh, really?
It's Josh Harrison. He was the one that played bass for us.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
Small world.
Yeah, man. But so we ended up getting Rob Hawking, who's the most soulful little white guy you've ever met in your life. I mean, he might as well be black. I mean, I mean that in like a totally complimentary manner. Like he's an awesome guy to play music with.
Yeah.
He has so much rhythm and just like he grew up going to Higher Dimensions. You remember that church?
No.
It was an all African American church at 91st and Memorial.
Okay.
It was there for a long time, and Rob was one of the very few white people to go to that church, and he grew up there, singing all those songs, and it was awesome. I went there one time because I knew him when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a crazy experience, but he was the nicest guy in the world. Anyway, so he moved to Norman, and we all lived in the house, and that's when things really took off.
So that's when you got real serious with the band.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Totally.
So, kind of walk us through that experience with being in a serious band. You know, because we've talked about the first band, which might have been a little serious, but not really. No,
this was a whole new ballgame altogether, because Sid was a very type A personality, and he took the reins on all the booking and all that, and it was like, I mean, this dude played football and rugby and woke up early every day, like one of those dudes, you know. He was driven, and I mean, like he was, it was crazy, man. But like his Achilles heel was performance. Like we had to work with him from being awkward on stage. I mean, this was a rugby player, you know, trying to be a front man. He had the voice, but he had to get used to being on stage. I mean, which took a while, but That's all right. But dude, where he lacked in not vocal skill, but just presence on stage, sometimes he totally made up with in booking and promotion and all that stuff, dude. He was a machine. Like I still don't know how he did it. And he wasn't on any drugs. He grew up with a single mom, Darlene, who was super hard, where she was just always working, always going, you know. I mean, nothing messed up about her. I mean, she died of lung cancer because she smoked so many cigarettes, but it's because she was just always going, you know, like just working her ass off. And I guess she just passed that on to Sid, but because he booked us. Like, I mean, there was a time, like, when we were in our stride, like, we would be home maybe 2 days a week. I mean, we would be like on the road, and we would try to keep jobs during that show. I mean, like, looking back on it, I don't know how we kept the schedules at all. That would kill me now, but it was fun, man. We eventually, I mean, so we were in Norman. Shit started getting, you know, better, and we were getting better and booking more shows and wanted to be from a different center. Like, so we met this band called the Feds, who were from Dallas, and they had come and we played a show with them or something, and Sid and the lead singer of that band kind of hit it off, and we're talking about booking and all this stuff, trading shows. And so fast forward, we end up moving to Denton, where this is where shit just got debaucherous. We'll get there.
Yeah. So we were going to talk about failure. I was mentioning in between cuts that it seemed that every time you fail, it puts an equal success. Sows an equal success. So
yeah, which is so hard to see at the time, usually, but. Yeah, and it just reminded me of kind of. It has occurred to me recently that suffering makes you a better person. I mean, with the right mindset, you know. I mean, suffering could just cause a bunch of bullshit in your life. You not ever learn anything from it. But most of the time, it causes something, like you're saying, maybe a success, you know, plants a seed for something else to happen. But it's usually, it's kind of the Fight Club mentality, or like a chick's getting a blowout with their hair. It's like you got to fuck something up to make something better first. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, because something is already established, you know. Mm-hmm. Not all the time. Sometimes you just walk into a situation and no, that never happens. Mm-hmm. Usually you have to break something first. So
yeah. Well,
but that's all that had occurred to me. Was that it was? I think it was while I was trying to teach Elliot something. I was like, man, I'm trying to like hover over this kid and make sure he never gets hurt. But he's like, that's just gonna make him a big pussy. Like. Mm-hmm. He needs to get hurt a little bit, and you know, I mean, not like I don't want to cause him any pain, but it's like if he falls off his bike, he falls off his fucking bike. Whatever, you know, it's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's.
Can you think of a time where something happened, like a big failure, but you realized that it's what you needed and it turned itself into a success for you, or you took the initiative and turned it into a success?
I'm sure I could. Give me a second to chew on that. Let me think. There's multiple times an upside. I mean, obviously the whole band was a failure. Like as far as that band's goal, you know what I mean? It was, we were trying to make it or whatever, like we were trying to get a record deal or what the fuck ever, you know, so we could play. I couldn't have cared less about guitar at the time. I mean, I just played because it's what I was supposed to do, but I mean, it's totally opposite of how I view it now. I mean, now I just love it. I'm totally consumed by it all the time. But, let's see. Well,
also speak up a little bit.
I was an alcoholic, so I mean, that was kind of a big failure. But no, that's not a good example.
Well, I mean, go back to the upside, because the band itself failed.
Yeah.
But because, you know, when I was in Dirty Crush, that band failed, but I feel like that was a success for me because, you know, it turned me into a better songwriter.
Totally, yeah.
So that's one success from it. Another success is that, you know, it made certain connections. So I know certain people.
And really, it's a perspective thing. Like,
right.
It's like, this is what happened in your life. You can either choose to view it this way, or you can choose to be shitty about it. You know what I mean? And it's, you're going to do what you're going to do, you know? And I think that is definitely the better road to take. Because you can, not only can that be something you can apply in your life, use the connections, better yourself at songwriting, whatever, but you're not going to be an asshole too. So,
yeah.
You know, but okay, so like with Upside, in a nutshell, I guess in this whole wheelhouse, like our last album was called Jim Beam and the American Dream, and we started to tour on it, and then we broke up. It was just all, we were all just, it was too much for everybody. We were so fucking worn out at that point. It just fell apart. So because of that, I came back here, I started playing a lot more guitar, and I realized that Upside was not like that. I enjoyed it at the time, but I was just way better than that. Like, I mean, musically speaking, like, I could not even better, I could just do more than what I was doing. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let's try that then. And that never would have even occurred to me. Like, I mean, had Upside kept going, I doubt I would be the guitarist I am today at all. Like, I might not even be here. I mean, in Tulsa, I mean, hell, alive, I guess, if we're really speaking in that manner. But I mean,
do you think that it made you complacent with your playing, and being away from it and realizing that being away from it is what helped you realize that you weren't complacent anymore in your playing and that you wanted to be better? Well,
yeah, I realized how colored my view of guitar was at the time. I mean, it wasn't just me playing guitar. It was this whole persona that not only I had created, but the band had helped create. I mean, like, we had these shirts that had like I swear to God, Kerry King ripped this shit off. Or like, you know, that little silhouette of him like holding the guitar up or whatever. Have you seen? Like, yeah. Like we had that exact same thing in 2004 on a shirt, and it said "Guitar Done." Like, it was like, it wasn't my idea. Like, but they wanted to do it and make this big shirt out of it. It was me holding a flying V, and it was just a black silhouette. And all that to say, it was this thing, like, and it was like I became anorexic in the middle of that shit, like. Just because there was no control in my life. I mean, I was making so few decisions for myself. I was like, well, I'm not going to eat. You know, it was like, I was like a little child. And I didn't realize that's why I did it at the time. I just stopped eating. But it was just a control mechanism, you know.
Do you think that's also why maybe you gravitated more towards alcohol during that period?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there was some void to fill there. I mean, yeah. And that was when I drank. I didn't really do drugs as much back then. That was mostly just drinking. I was just fucking. I mean, I would wake up and start drinking Kentucky Deluxe like 9 a.m, and then finish like a 5th and like 6th, and then go to the bar and whatever. So, you know.
Do you think the alcoholism was some form of you coping with not having the control? Is it the lack of control?
Oh yeah, dude, yeah, it was coping for everything. Yeah. I mean, and I mean, you guys know me. I'm not super like, you know, I'm not out to get my way. You know what I mean? So it's like I can
to a fault.
Yeah, totally, and I can be pushed around kind of easily. So, and not saying Sid was pushy. I'm just saying that was another thing where it was like I should have tried to get my way more often, just about, you know, anything, but because I didn't, I put myself in that situation and reacted that way. You know, it's a very like passive sort of problem, anorexia. You know what I mean? You're just choosing not to do something instead of like proactively doing something. You know, it's kind of a pussy rebellion or something, but that's what I did for a while, and then got over that. And that's really what messed my pancreas up, was that. Because not eating, especially not eating and then drinking, will do just terrible things to your pancreas. So once I did that and then came back here and started getting into pills and stuff, I mean, then it was over.
So when did I'll also ask how, but when did the Upside, when did that end?
2008, late 2008.
And what caused that breakup? You said that you guys were worn out, but it had to be a little bit more than in depth.
So, okay, yeah. So that fleshed out is we had just gotten home from some West Coast tour. Like we did, again, it was just like, we do like 17-hour drive somewhere. So it was just brutal, dude. I mean, it looked like kind of rough on paper, but actually doing it was terrible. Anyway, so we got home from one of those like 2-3 week stints, and it was a thing where we were in the middle of it. We had a showcase for somebody, I don't remember who. No, that's not right. There was just a bunch of shows because we had just signed for that last album. We signed with you guys would know their name. I don't remember it though. Some independent label that was popular at the time, and they put out that last album, got us some new gear and shit, and sent us on the road. And it was like 3 weeks of that, and we got home and everybody was just beat to fuck. And I mean, I was still anorexic at that point. I mean, no, it wasn't an outward thing. Everybody just knew I looked like shit. So I mean, but so that was still there for me. And we were all just sitting around one night, and somebody brought it up. I think maybe Owen. I don't remember. Robert Owen said something about like, dude, I'm tired of this shit. And I was like, yeah, man, me too. and Sid was kind of taken aback by it. Like he was like, what do you guys mean? And we just felt it, dude. I don't know. It was literally a thing where we were just sitting around and we were just kind of like, yep, that's it. And 2 days later I left and like I was gone. I wasn't trying to hang out and fucking do anything. I packed my shit while they were all at work and left. Yeah. I don't know why I did. I was just over it. My mind kind of operates in that way. When something's done, it's fucking done, and I cut it off. But I will try to keep it living and surviving for as long as I fucking can. You know what I mean? That's why when it's done, it's done. And I knew that shit was over. So I just left. I didn't have much there. I didn't have any furniture. I mean, all I had was kind of my clothes and a couple of guitars. So I left them a note and took off. It was like a movie or something. But they contacted me and wanted to do like a reunion show. So we set that up. I mean, just so like, because we never really did like a last show or anything. It was just kind of like, see you later. And at the time we had like a lot of fans and stuff. I mean, not that we're, bound to them or anything, but Sid felt like we should play a show and mentioned it to me, and I was in the hospital with pancreatitis at the time. I was like, yeah, as soon as I get out of here. So we did that, and that was kind of fun.
So what happened after Upside? You said you came back here to Tulsa?
Yeah, back from Denton. Mm-hmm. And so my buddy Sean Kentz, who comes into the store sometimes, so when I lived in Norman, there was also another band there called Mid-America, and Sean was in that band. He was a guitarist in that band. And we were kind of running buddies at the time, and we just knew each other through social connections or something in Norman. So I got back here, and he had moved here Sean moved around more than anybody I knew. I mean, just by himself. He would just move. He moved to New Orleans by himself just to find a band. Found a band, started playing with him. It's crazy as shit. He's so weird like that. It's ballsy. I would never do that. I mean, I don't have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
He just goes down there and finds a job, finds a place, and it's just like, who are you? Anyway, so I saw him somewhere and we reconnected, and he was like, dude, I want to do something that's like exactly like Zeppelin. And I was like, I don't really like Zeppelin. And he was like, we'll fix that. I was like, okay. He had this 26-inch kick drum and like wanted to do it. So he wanted to do Greta Van Fleet. That's what it was, like, except then, but
so before Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah, like unflinchingly Zeppelin, like unapologetically, like no, and like it had rules, like you had to use these tones. I mean, it had to sound like fucking Zeppelin. Like the song choices we made, all the songwriting, our clothes choices. I mean, I grew my fucking hair out, and it was like long and curly and shit. It was stressful almost. Like, it was funny. Like, we were gonna kick our bass player out because he wasn't conforming, and he talked his way back in. Like, that guy got laid more than anybody I know because of how good he was at talking. And he is, sure enough, dude, he switched his fucking game around, and like, I've never seen anybody do that before. He was like, okay, I'll do this, that, and then he did all of it, and he became a great bass player. He started working out and got in shape. These were Sean's. This was his ultimatum. I mean, like, which once again I had to initiate, but Sean jumped in. He wasn't as much of a pussy. Our singer, though, he bailed. Who now is retiring from being a Special Forces EOD officer. Like, he's the guy that goes in and he's Hurt Locker, except glorified. I mean, he would go in for Obama and shit. It was crazy. But for some reason couldn't take firing a bass player. Yeah, no, seriously, no. He was on special, like, he was on like the EOD of the EOD, like the bomb squad guys. But so he would go in before the president and shit and check out all the stuff, make sure there wasn't anything in there. And I mean, I'm sure there are terms I'm forgetting, but he was like really important, like, in that regard. I mean, I couldn't tell you. And then he had like 5 kids while he was doing it. I was just like, dude, I can hardly hold together one life. This guy's responsible for 6. It's just like, screw you, Jeff. He's awesome though. He's a great songwriter too. He's the singer for Swampfox.
The Swampfox's band you're talking about? Mm-hmm. So
that was a lot of fun.
The Zeppelin sounding band was
yeah, that was the first band that I ever took on that was like, I was like proud of. I mean, like, Upside I liked, but there were weak spots in it. This band was solid as fuck. I mean, like, you could, it was awesome. I loved it. But as with anything that's too good to be true, it just dissolved as quickly as it started, man. Jeff was too young and freaked out and joined the army, and I was just falling deeper into a drug addiction. Zach was balls deep in pussy, and Sean kind of was, but was just like trying to hold the band together, you know, and just wasn't happening. So
when did you start doing drugs?
When I got back here.
So once you left Upside, you came back here,
and I hurt my shoulder, and I got prescribed to some Norcos or something, and I was like, I like these. These are good. So I kept trying to find them. Dude, in hindsight, they shouldn't ever give those to anybody for any reason, and they really don't anymore. My baby mama has breast cancer right now, and they won't fucking give her anything but Tylenol. I mean, they kind of learned the lesson, but you don't ever really need that stuff, man. I mean, she's suffering through it just fine. Like, I mean, she's tough as nails too, but that's neither here nor there. You know, they're not giving it to her, and she's making it. And, you know, it used to be like, yeah, that's stuff they just say for cancer patients and stuff, but they don't anymore because it fucked everybody up. But, I mean, I'm still, like, weaning off this regiment of a drug I had to get on to get off the other stuff, you know, but now it's just a controlled thing, and you just math your way off of it. But
when were you able to stop?
Fucking almost 20 years ago, man. You know, I mean, that's forever.
When were you able to kind of stop taking the Norcos?
Well, I mean, the Norcos are what got me into it. I mean, eventually, you know, you get to Roxy's, and then you're banging Roxy's, and then fucking, I mean, like, I was snorting them off of the fucking, I could tell you any restroom at a gas station in Tulsa that had the back of a toilet that you could snort drugs off of, because you could just whip in there real quick, do your drugs, and leave. Nobody was wiser.
Yeah.
It was so easy. You just, anyway, whatever. So what was the question? When did I stop?
Yeah, when were you able to stop?
2017, maybe 2016. Or that's when I got on
Subutex,
the other medication. Yeah, Subutex. Yep. So I mean, I'm almost off of that. It's just such a ball and chain now. I'm just like,
yeah.
I've never been so over something, but I mean, you can't just stop taking it. You fucking have a seizure. You know what I mean? It's like, are you kidding me? Why didn't you tell me this when I got on it?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't make any money that way. So whatever. And I needed it at the time. So
you hurt your arm, and that's what kind of got you started on those. It wasn't like alcoholism where it was like a lack of control and you just needed something.
Right. Yeah. No. I was my girlfriend at the time. I was carrying on New Year's Eve over some slick driveway, and I thought we were in the clear. I didn't realize it was some black ice, and I slipped, and there was one of those basketball goals with the sand-filled bases. So I'm carrying her 100-pound ass, and which I'm saying she was tiny, like, you know, but still, all that weight was when I fell was on my shoulder, and my elbow clipped that basketball thing on the way down. So it went like this, and just like totally like shattered my ball and socket situation. My arm was like out of socket that whole night. Like,
that's rough. I
couldn't move it. It was weird. I mean, to this day, it's still messed up. It didn't heal right. Like, it hurts when I play guitar for a long time, and woe is me. But it was that did it. That got me those drugs. So these little peach pills, I'll never forget what they looked like. I always thought it was interesting, the colors of all these pills. Why color them? I don't know.
Yeah. So the band Swampfox, that kind of just dissolved because everybody was going in different directions. Is that accurate to say? Or?
It was just going too hard, too fast. Like, it was just too good. Like, everything was just going so badass, and it just popped. I don't know. There was just too much going on, man. I don't know.
How far did the Swampfox get? Were you just local, or were you able?
We had just begun playing like regional shows. Like we had played a show in Arkansas and like Louisiana. I think there was a fucking couple of crazy shows in Louisiana. But I mean, every fucking show we played seemed like a Motley Crue video. I mean, like into the night, you know what I mean? And it was just like, but it was fun. It was just like somebody's gonna die or something. Like, and Jeff just, I mean, once Jeff quit, it was over. You know, I mean, he was such an integral part of that. But
yeah. So then, what happened after Swampfox?
After Swampfox, I started. Okay, so playing with Swampfox, I found these couple of like communal like storage unit practice space areas downtown where a lot of bands had like, they would just hang out there, drink and fuck there and everything. It was crazy. It was like this, but it was all open on the inside, and there were just doors, and you would go in. It was right. The building's not even there anymore. It's right across from One Oak Field. Do you remember Curly's at all? It was connected to Curly's.
Okay.
In that building, but around on this door that faced the other way. I actually played an Edge Fest with Upside across the street from Curly's in what's now like One Oak Stadium.
Yeah.
They put Upside on the. We had a song somehow on. Sid talked his way into having a meeting with the PD or one of the guy who picked the songs at the time, and gave him our record that we had just recorded, and it sounded slick. I mean, we spent money and time on it and made sure it was flawless. And I mean, maybe not artistically, but you know what I mean, sonically. It was what we wanted, and it was totally fine for the radio, and we got a song, and people started supporting it. They were calling in, and it got on the top 10 at 10 for like 2 months. and we were in Denton at the time going, what? The fuck is going on? And it was fun, like, for our families and stuff, but I mean, that's all that really ever came of it. Like, my dad would call me and be like, hey, man, hey, you hear this? And it would just be like, I couldn't hear anything. It was like, yeah, my dad just had a blast with it, which was good for him, because, anyway, but, what was the question, dude? I so just ADD.
I asked what happened. What did you do after Swampfox?
Right. How did I even get there?
You mentioned Curly's, and then you played a show across from
okay, right. So no, because that was a big part of it. Like, I met a bunch of bands out there at those storage units, and I was just like jamming with them again, just like, let me play something.
Yeah.
So he'd throw me a bass or some shit, and so I met these guys in a band called First Lady Assassins, who were like, it was like punk. I don't really know. No, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but I really liked the guys, and I thought they were all good players. So I played bass with them for a while. I told you I had an Explorer. The guy that played guitar in that band, I gave my Explorer to, and he totally deserved it. I mean, he's a nice guy and just fucking needed a guitar, you know, a good one, but didn't have one. So that's where that one went. But from that band came Liverheart. Like, I really liked the vocalist. He was the toughest fucking vocalist I ever heard in my life. Loud and just, but he was this cool, just sweet little tight fat artist guy. I don't know how, like, you know how you meet some people that are fat and it's like they're just all over the place. Like, he's one of those like tight fat guy. He held it together well or something. I don't know, he had a beard, he looked like he just beat your ass, like. But I mean, he was super nice guy. His name was Jordan, and so the drummer from that band, Brent, who could just crush the drums, and Jordan and I started we got a bass player named Brennan, who, dude, they were all respected. I had so much respect for that band. Like, Swampfox, outside of the drums, which I feel like I could have learned because it was just bonzo drumming, just big ass drumming. I felt like I could have learned all the instruments and stuff, all the parts these guys were playing. Liverheart, I was just like totally on my own. Like, I mean, I couldn't do that. They were all just fantastic at what they did. And so I just wrote my shit instead of worrying about anybody. I mean, I hardly ever imposed on anybody else in any other bands, but I was like, I would think about parts sometimes, be like, I'd have done that differently or whatever. Never said any of it. But in this band, I was like, I can't do any of that shit. So, like I said, I just stuck to my stuff, and that was fun. That was the heaviest band I've ever been in. Our whole thing was there was no rules. Like, we didn't abide by any rules. If we wanted to do some fucking bananas crazy part, we did it, and it was fun, man. But I was at like the height of my drug use during that, so we couldn't hold any schedule. And some of the other guys in the band had some drug problems too. Jordan didn't, but I just wanted to exclude him in case he hears this. I mean, the other guy, I'm not going to say anything about their stuff, but well, so it fell apart pretty quickly too. So
where was your head at that point? Was it just on drugs at that point, or? Man,
when you're on opiates, that's pretty much all you can think about because the high is so short. Yeah. I mean, unless you're doing H, but I wasn't, like, for some reason that was my boundary. I was like, I don't want to. I mean, I was still sticking a needle in my arm. It was just synthetic heroin instead of actual heroin. I don't know why that was the line for me, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Just a dirtier game, but
it just that band just kind of fizzled, or?
Yeah, man. I mean, when you're constantly just thumbing through your phone book trying to find a connection or somebody to get pills from, you can't do much else, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So after Liverheart, did you take a break and focus on stopping taking drugs?
I never like tried to. I should have like just gone to a rehab and like taken a month off of life and done that, but I didn't have the wisdom to do that. Even when I quit, I was like, I'm going to do this while I'm doing other things. Like, and I mean that's kind of what I did, you know. What happened was I got acute pancreatitis 3 times, and getting that once, I mean, ups your chances for pancreatic cancer, which kills you. I mean, you get that, and it's not like it's like you're fucked. You know, if you get, so getting that once ups your chances of getting pancreatic cancer later in life, like by 1,000,000. And I've had 3 attacks. I mean, I'm pretty screwed, but I'm just trying to prolong it as long as possible. But the 3rd time I was in the hospital, they were like, quit doing drugs and drinking. And I was like, fine. They were like, you're going to kill yourself. So, but it's because I wasn't eating when I was doing it. And it's not through an anorexia thing. It's because I would get drunker or higher or whatever, you know?
Yeah. You cared more about that than eating.
Yeah, man. And it really, yeah. I mean, once Elliot was in the picture, I mean, like, I even hid it from my wife at the time for a while until she figured it out. And
Elliot's your son, correct?
Yeah. So, but I guess what I was getting at was it took him coming around for me to go, all right, fuck all that shit. Like, I mean, I like the prospect of him is once she got pregnant. I mean, like,
right.
Anyway.
And how soon after liver heart was that?
Years. Like,
when did liver heart stop?
Liver heart ended in like late 2009, maybe 2010. I met Chelsea in 2014. So there was like 4 years in there where I was just like doing drugs and playing guitar by myself.
So liver heart was kind of your last band for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I guess. Yeah. Musically, I guess I took a break there.
Okay.
Like, but Chelsea played and sang. She does both wonderfully. Like she sounds like an angel when she sings. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when I met her, that helped get me playing a little bit again too, because she wanted to play. And but I started working at Dr. Z's. That's where I met her, at the glasses place, by the mall.
Mm-hmm. It's my optometrist.
Oh.
Yeah, So the first time I even went there for an interview, I saw her, and I walked by. And I didn't mean for her to say it, but I just said "fuck you." Like she had like bent over or something, and I was like, "You bitch!" Like I just thought she was so hot, and she just immediately had me in the palm of her hand. And she heard me say it. She didn't tell me till later on. She was like, "I thought you hated me." I was like, "Oh no, I was just upset because you were bending over and I had an interview in 2 seconds." Anyway, I digress. That's where I met her, and the rest is history. So.
Yeah. So that kind of brings you to now, mm-hmm. correct? So because once you met her, you guys got pretty serious, mm-hmm. and you had Elliot.
Yeah.
And she already had another kid, correct? So you were basically full on dad.
Rory was my stepdaughter. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
she's awesome
so
too.
2014 hits. You're pretty much full on dad mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rory just got me ready for Elliot. I mean, and I mean, I'm still like, okay, so working at Guitar Center really is what kind of got me involved in, I mean, because I was playing guitar a lot whenever Chelsea and I split. Like,
so you got together in 2014, and
right.
then you split.
And then in late 2019.
Okay. And that's when you moved back in with your parents.
Yeah. And I moved back in with them. My dad passed in March of 2020.
Yeah.
So it was just me and my mom, and Elliot. But so I was just playing a lot of guitar, and then working at Guitar Center. Like, it was not at all what I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought you guys were going to be a bunch of douchebags. Like, no offense. Like, but I mean, I not because not from knowing you, just from the stigma. Like, anybody thinks of a salesman or something. I don't know. Like, but you guys were awesome, and so
Are we still good?
Yeah, I'm just checking everything. So
it kind of inspired me to play out again. Like, I mean, yeah. Because there was reason to and people to do it. So
what do you have going on right now musically?
Well, I got this thing with you.
Yeah.
What are we calling that? That's a weird. Okay, so we got which I don't know how we're gonna spell that or do merch or anything. We should do a little fart sound or something. But which I love. I mean, I've pushing my boundaries a little bit. Is it? Yeah, just because I haven't met a player. You can't ever. I'm gonna find a different way to word this, because anytime anybody says anything like this, it's like you're a cocksucker.
Me or you?
No, anybody. Just like somebody's like, I've never met anybody who's played as good as me. But you know what I mean? Like, anybody can relate to this. You're doing something that you're usually better than most people at, and you win all the time. So
yeah.
I was trying to inflate that a little bit. No, I'm just, it's hard to find people that play guitar well, period.
Yeah.
Because it takes dedication for most of your life. And so to find somebody else who has dedicated a lot of their life to a thing with 6 strings on it is rare, and you just have happened to do it, so it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
That's all.
And that's the only kind of musical endeavor you're going on?
Yeah, I'm always recording my own stuff, and someday I'm going to do just like an instrumental album by myself, but I don't know when that day is going to come. I just know it's going to happen. So I'm always just jamming my own shit just because I'm playing guitar all the time. What am I going to play? It's just whatever comes out. But
So that's kind of the rundown on your life.
More or less, yeah. I'm sure we'll have some kind of footage of something. I've got plenty of Upside and Liverheart and whatever else.
So
Swampfox. So
we talked about kind of like failure and, kind of
suffering, yeah.
Suffering. And so let's try to apply that to your music or your life as a musician. And
well, dude, the only constant I had through any of this was guitar. I mean, other than my family, you know what I mean? Like they were, I have a great support system. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but if you don't have that, you're dealing with a different bag of cats anyway. So let's just assume you have that. Past that, you need something. I mean, like, to get you through life. I mean, at least maybe it's just my perspective. I get probably so, but because I've always had something to get me through life, and by something I mean like something you could do to get your mind off shit. Like that's not poisonous to you. You know what I mean? Because you got. I always say you got. I mean, I have to unwind at the end of the day. Like, so once my head hits the pillow, I'm out. Getting to that point takes a little longer. Like I'm. You know me, I work, like I just go, it's what I do. I'm a creature of momentum. I can't help it, and so unwinding at the end of the day takes a while to finally, and then I fucking pass out, you know what I mean? But, so it's, again, I forgot what I'm talking about. I love marijuana.
The original question was, let's try to attribute what we were saying about failure,
right?
And how
the
it creates,
constant, yes. So, right,
the suffering and
yeah. So the guitar, I mean, like anybody else who has played it a long time, and it's a crutch for them. It's very much helped me through all of that stuff. I mean, outside of when I've been like seizing and withdrawal, like you just can't hold the guitar because you're like, motherfucker. Like, spine feels like it is just ice. It's really weird. Outside of that, like guitar has been in my hands getting me through it. I mean, not like bawling either, it's just like I'm just losing my thought, and all the bullshit that I've been thinking about and everything else just goes away, and I just play guitar. I don't think about any of it. I don't feel any of it. It's like the best numb you can ever experience.
Sorry.
I'm not. You can deal with that. Anyway.
So, but it's. I feel like it's a reach to say that guitar gets rid of the suffering, or makes the suffering go away. It just pauses it
for me. Like it doesn't make it go away. It just like I can forget about it for a minute. Like, is
that all it does, or does it kind of like help you deal with it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like because I feel like anytime you can get. Oh, this reminds me of what I was going to say earlier that I forgot. Okay. Repetition, like so anything that you do in repetition that you can get good at and do automate, like automatically without thinking about it, your subconscious will start untying knots in your life. Like, I mean, you're just beginning to or for me, that's how I've experienced it. Like, I don't know if it gives it a chance to like kick back its heels and go, all right, let's figure this shit out real quick. And because it's busy if you're not doing this thing or something, I don't know. But like, I swear to God, like, there's got to be somebody talking about it somewhere. I've experienced it too many times for it not to be real. Repetition to a point of like a zen thing, like if you just keep doing it, and for me it's just playing guitar, just and not even the same thing over and over, just like you just keep playing, and it's like
the act of doing
it eventually hits a hum, you know what I mean? It's like when something is spinning so fast and it's like and it's just going. I don't know, I imagine like a free energy battery to work like this or something.
I think a lot of musicians know that feel, because I know that feel, and
you can get it from just drumming and djembe. Like this is what drum circles are based on. Like, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just excited. I was like, yeah.
Well, it's like a zen state where you get it's like flow, like what we were talking about earlier, where the vibration isn't a changing of focus; it's constant focus and unbroken focus.
Yeah, totally.
And so that, like, you're doing that. And it's very interesting. I would recommend people read The Power of the Subconscious Mind, because it's going to explain a lot of this in further detail. But you under repetition, you can get it to where it's a constant state, and then you can totally think about other things, and your brain doesn't have to occupy itself. But the subconscious mind is like,
I haven't reached that point yet, but I could see how that could happen. Like, you know, maybe see, like, I could see like drumming, just simply because I'm sure there's somebody who can do it on guitar, but there are so many possibilities that last little corner of your mind you need is taken up because there's just too much going on here. But I feel like with drumming and like
more of a rhythm thing rather than articulation
totally
thing.
like, and especially because you feel the vibrations and stuff. I actually watched a TED talk about this one time where a guy was talking about helping people fall asleep and you drumming on your legs because it puts you into this state, you know, like if you just keep doing it, like there was some like actual tempo too that anyway. But I feel like you could really reach that state, you know. I bet there's some drummers out there right now going, fuck yeah. Just like totally. I'm gonna have to try that sometime.
Well, there's another question regarding that I guess I had. It's a little on the stranger side.
Okay. So
I don't want to freak anybody out. You ever talk with you have these moments where you're probably talking with God, because we talked about growing up in the church.
Sure.
Was there an opposite? Because I've always heard that a tree to heaven must have its roots to hell. So have you had equally opposite negative experiences spiritually?
Well, okay, so as one that is into a conspiratorial side of things, it's just, you sound crazy when you talk about it. You know what I mean? There's no way around that. Like, unfortunately. Like,
well, we've got them in the first half. This is where we really get them. Give them something.
He's totally crazy
that they didn't expect. Otherwise, it wouldn't be tragic.
Can you kind of expand that? Like, what do you mean by have you experienced an opposite, like negative?
Well, what's the high, like, what was a moment where you're like, I'm talking, is it in guitar, where you're like, I'm just Zen state with the universe, God, technically, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, there's no opposition, you just go and you feel like impossibly can do anything.
It's like a weird lack of resistance. It feels real loose. I don't feel like I've ever talked to God or anything like that, but I've had moments like you're talking about, but so the guitar for me is more of like a day-to-day thing, like one would look at meditation, you know what I mean? And I think if I further meditated, I would get more to that point, but I haven't made it there yet. So like it's still on a level to me that's where I'm gone. Like, you know what I mean? If you would break my state if you came up to me and start talking or something, but like for a second you would just not even exist, you know. I mean, like people scare the shit out of me when they do that too. I'm just like, oh god. It's like fucking coming out. It's just because I'm so far away. But back to what we were saying though, I say that to say, like, I haven't ever had like a God experience with the guitar, but on some hallucinogenics, I've definitely had I've had feelings before, you know what I mean? Like, which I'm sure can be explained away. Everything can be explained away. That's fine. But to me, I've felt some very, very dark things before, you know. I mean, not like they've touched me or anything, but like there was this dude one time. I had a party at a house I lived with Denise. She was one of my girlfriends in 2008 to
late 2000s,
2012, I guess. Yeah, thanks, late 2000s. And we had a house, and this dude came over and was just like he had just the blackest eyes, and it's really it all just sounds like hogwash unless you're there, you know. Like, this dude was dark. Like, I don't know how to describe him. But man, there's nothing that, like, outside of sounding crazy, that it, you know what I mean? I don't know. I can't talk about that shit. People are gonna go, this guy's bananas, and it's gonna totally invalidate everything I say. So
I would beg to differ. I think people relate to it. I hear the crazy shit from the most normal people.
Really?
And I don't think that's who's gonna watch us. I don't think we're gonna have this.
Well, if I
structured reality
Hopefully
as
everybody
this.
watches us.
I would feel crazier if I weren't able to like take pictures of the shit and verify it and go, yeah, it's not just my mind. That's my mind is putting it on my.
So we are getting into like a spiritual realm.
We won't go too deep into it.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if this is spiritual or not. It's just fucked up.
Oh yeah.
So I'd like to get a little bit more in depth with how you view music.
Okay.
And
I kind of have a little bit of this thing called synesthesia. Like, it's very color related to me. I don't see colors. I just immediately associate, and it's not even at the forefront of my mind. Like when it happens, it's just different keys and songs and notes and stuff are just colored.
Right. Like, so if I do an F sharp.
Yeah, that's like this kind of brownish.
See, I get a green.
See, green is G for me, and like I don't know if that's a G association or what, but it's like it's just immediately there. Like D minor is like this black kind of blue dark thing.
I've always kind of associated, I can see the blue, but like for me, the F sharp minor, that's always been like or some variation of F sharp.
Is what, a green?
Green for me.
Cool. See, and you know what's funny is I can hear that in your playing. Like it comes out that way. Like it sounds very like crisp and fresh, and like I don't know. It's that makes sense.
Maybe that's why I gravitate towards that note so much. But
yeah.
So like,
it's not for better or worse. It's just colors. I don't know why I do that.
I really don't understand that myself. I just I don't really do that consciously. Like just
it's just there. It's like it's naturally paired together or something.
Well, for me, it comes and goes. Like I don't always think of things as colors, but like just sometimes it strikes me as that. Very rarely, but sometimes.
Cool.
But what was the question?
I think I interrupted the question talking about synesthesia.
It was about. I think it was more of a philosophical look.
No, at music. How I look at music. Yeah,
like how you view music, and mainly the creativity as a whole. I would say. Man,
I look at it as a thing now where. Partly, I mean, like, that's a very broad question. There's a lot of different facets to music, like, so for me, I have kind of this personal goal to not help, but like use my music as like a way to better people's lives somehow. I don't know. I mean, I've never told anybody this either, and it's not like I have a creed or anything like that. It's just like, if I can somehow use a guitar to get in there and make your life less shitty, I'm gonna do it. Like, and if that's playing, then so be it. And if it's not, if it's just a way that we meet, then so be it.
Or giving somebody your guitar randomly.
Yeah, totally, dude. I've done that probably over 20 times.
That's insane.
That's why I don't get attached to guitars, is because I know it's probably gonna go out the door at some point.
Do you view guitars as just a tool, like some people do, or do you kind of view them
more than a personality? Yeah, I mean, now I like certain guitars more than others, but I also fiddle with them so much that they don't always stay the same. And now I've got a few that I've got like. Two or three I haven't ever gotten rid of. This acoustic I won't ever get rid of just because my dad gave it to me.
Yeah.
A Talman with some lipsticks in it that I've almost gotten rid of one time, but I didn't just because I've never seen another guitar that plays or sounds like this thing. It's Japanese. It's a great guitar. What was the other one? That may be it. There's like this blank spot in my mind. It was like that and that and.
But other than those select few,
they come and go. Yeah,
they're
it's
just tools
fluid thing. Yeah. But somehow the tone always comes out the same. So it's like,
because the tone is you, right?
It took me a while to figure that out. Like I was trying to find the right guitar and all this, and it was like, oh wait, I'm a big part of that control.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people kind of go with Eddie Van Halen's way of thinking is the tone is in your fingers.
Yeah,
I think it's more than that.
That was news to me.
I think it's more than that, but.
That's part of it. Like people don't consider that as much.
The tone is how you make the strings I don't know how to explain
Yeah,
it.
well, you aren't at the mercy of your gear. Was what that said to me. I was like, sweet, right? I control this just as much as this shit does.
Yeah,
So.
like if I play on mine, I sound like me. I play on your Bogner, it sounds like me.
Yep, totally.
I mean, you're gonna sound like you no matter what.
If you've put enough time into it, you have a fingerprint there. You know what I mean? And that's gonna come across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
Excellent. Just excellent. I'm just enthralled.
Man, you guys are, if I may, thanks for doing this, because it's nice to have somebody, number one, doing something for the music scene in general. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people doing it, but I don't get out much, so don't hold it against me. But, you know, I mean, also I don't get out much, so it's nice to, you know, it makes somebody feel like not like a fucking god-awful person if somebody's asking them questions about their life. So
yeah,
thanks. Appreciate it.
So do you have anything, before we cut this off, do you have anything you want to plug? Anything you want to...
I want to tell everybody to just fucking be nicer to each other. Holy shit, guys. Can we calm down a little bit? Like, nothing is that big of a deal. That's what I want to plug. Just calm down, love each other a little more, fuck some more, do whatever, but just relax, all right? Maybe that's the dad in me coming out, but all you motherfuckers need to calm down and have a good time.
All right. Do you have anything to say?
Play us out, Bennett.
Yes, sir. That worked.
Excellent. Excellent work.
Adios.
Beautiful.
Cigarette.
You guys are good, man. For real. That's like those are very good questions that, you know, that I would want to hear the answers to. You know, listening to somebody be like, what did this guy really do? Like,
I didn't even use half the questions I had written down. Or typed up, I guess I should say.